Now we're going to move into talking about the core mechanics. Now, this is going to be an overview of the core mechanics. All right. We'll dive deeper into each set of the core mechanics from skills to combat to spells in a future episode, but we're going to just do the generics today. So I hope you're good with it. Actually, I don't care because I'm live streaming and I'm going to keep talking. So the number of actions performed by the player, characters, or NPCs require dice rolls. So it's like every game. Now, if a character is trying to perform a skill, roll dice, right? And this is the 2d20 system. So how many dice do you think you roll typically?
Ooh, 220s?
You got it. It's really good how this game system tells you what to do. Exceptions to that, but the general premise is you roll 2d20s. And then you have the dark symmetry dice, which is usually for results of the action, mostly for damage, but results of action as well. So, and yes, there are specialty dice. It's funny, I don't have the specialty dice here. That look like this that you see on the screen. You don't need them though, because does this not look like a normal D6 for you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 is a goofy symbol. Okay.
Right. Exactly. The only dice that matter are 1, 2, and 6. 3, 4, and 5 don't matter at all. But we'll get into that when we talk about dark symmetry later, but I wanted to put it up here because it has a nice image. I like the image here. So, all right. So the main game mechanic turns character selects called skill test. A skill test is required when a character attempts a task where the outcome is in doubt or there are consequences for failure. I don't think I've seen a book this old actually say that before. Not that well.
That's weird.
Yeah. When asked to perform a skill test, a player rolls 2d20, hoping for low results on one or both dice. Again, without getting crazy into this, if you've got an attribute of 10 and a skill rating of 3, expertise, let me use the right term, an expertise of 3, 10 plus 3 is 13, right? You want to roll 13 or less on a d20. If you do that, you've succeeded. Not on difficulty 2. Shut up, we'll get into that later. That's what you want to do.
For a normal difficulty action.
Right. Easy peasy.
Okay.
A task can be affected by several other elements, including attributes, skills, bonus successes, and difficulty. Each character is defined by 8 attributes. These attributes indicate a character's inherent abilities. Again, if you played other games, strength, dex, con, yada, yada. I forget exactly what they're called in this game, even though I've done them like 50 times in the last couple weeks. But was it physique, awareness, coordination? You've got 8 of them. You know, Palladium's got 8 of them. This game's got 8 of them. Same basic thing. Well, your rank in those, your rating in those is what your base skill roll is going to be. Then you add your expertise on top of that, plus whatever modifiers DM decides he wants to do. Skill and expertise. There we go. I just kind of mentioned what expertise. That's really, skills have 2 features to them. One is expertise, which we've talked about a couple times. You add that to your attribute to determine what your target number is, right?
Sure.
The other is focus, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, unless it talks about right here. It does not. So we'll talk about focus in a little bit because it adds another dynamic to...
Oh, there it is.
It is right there. To the die roll. And I want to read it as it's given in the book. When performing a skill test, a player generally needs to generate a success on one or both of the d20s in order to pass. If the player rolls equal to or less than the attribute plus the ranks of skill expertise, he generates 1 success as outlined above. We already said that. Sure. Again, attribute plus expertise is your target number. Yep.
I'm on board. We're good.
Skill training can also improve one's focus with a particular skill. Focus indicates the range on a d20 within which a player generates additional successes when using related skills. Well, additional. It's momentum in this game. You could consider that criticals, but it might just be a difficulty 2 challenge where you have to get 2 successes just to do it.
All right.
So it's just an additional success, but yes, it could be utilized, for lack of a better term, as a critical. Again, this game calls it momentum. So let's just look at that D20 again. Okay. Let's say you have an expertise 3 and a focus of 2 in this skill. Doesn't matter. Shooty skill. We'll just call it shooty. Sure. Your attribute is 10 because I like nice, easy numbers. So your target number is your attribute plus the expertise, which we said is 13, right? 10 plus 3 is 13.
Yep.
You roll the 2d20, and let's say you get a 2 and a 15. The 15s, you bombed it. You didn't get under a 13. Just chuck that die out. You screwed up. The 2, on the other hand, is that a 13 or less?
Yes.
So that's a success.
Sure.
but it's also what I say the focus of the character was? 2. So that means a 2 or less gives you an extra success. Is the 2 a 2 or less?
Yes.
You got 2 successes on 1 die.
Nice.
So that's how focus and expertise are different. Expertise makes your target number easier. Focus gives you the potential of more successes.
Got it.
Momentum. When a player, and there is a chapter on momentum later. So again, if this is too simplistic for some folks, we'll get to it. When a player passes a skill test, there are a number of ways in which it can be resolved. For many tests, the only important result is whether or not the test was successful. Okay, yeah. Did you steal the sandwich? Roll. Yes, you stole the sandwich. What else do you need on top of that? You stole the sandwich. I don't care if you got 1 success or 5 successes. You stole the sandwich. Other times, the magnitude of success is important. Probably when you're shooting somebody, that magnitude is pretty. Add more damage, knock somebody down. You can have these effects, right? So that's what momentum does for you. When performing a skill test, the number of successes generated is compared to the skill test's difficulty rating. It's usually like a D1, D2, as it's written in the book. As long as the skill test generated a number of successes equal to or greater than the difficulty rating, the character passes the test. However, when the number of successes generated is greater than the difficulty rating, the skill test not only passes, but results in a higher quality or magnitude of effect, as Heathen Dog said, also known as critical in some games. The difference between the number of successes generated and the difficulty rating becomes momentum, a resource the player can use to feel a variety of different effects, which we'll talk about more in the momentum chapter. For example, in combat, this momentum may allow a character to inflict additional damage, target a specific location. Yes, this game does use hit locations, or disarm an opponent.
I shoot him in the ding ding.
Yep, you could shoot him in the ding ding with enough successes. So, all right. Chronicle points. I'm just going to be upfront with people. I like the idea of momentum when it's used immediately. Can you save momentum? We'll get to that later, but the quick answer is yes. I don't like that. I like things that when you do something awesome now, I don't like it banked for later. Continue that awesomeness now. Is it called momentum for a reason? Like, keep that momentum going. That's the way I feel. Well, Chronicle points kind of fall into the same thing. If you played Pathfinder, you're used to hero points. If games that give you little, here, have your, what was it? Yeah, it was called Karma in the old Mech Warrior game. It's something where what do they call it? The cinematic effect, the rule of cool type thing. I'm not a fan of Chronicle points, but they're baked into the game. They're part of the game. They're necessary to the game. So let's move into them. I just had to put my opinion up there for a moment. Player characters have access to a special type of resource called Chronicle points, or CPs. This reflects the fact that the player characters are cut from a different cloth than the average person. So instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to give you +7 to your attributes, so everybody out there is a ninja Arnold Schwarzenegger with the brilliance of Einstein. No, you're still a normal person with your attributes in a normal world. However, here's where your heroism comes in. Here's where the cinematic effect comes in. Whether or not they're viewed as heroes, the player characters are destined for greatness. Well, if you live. These CPs are used to accomplish a wide variety of possible goals. Since a character's pool of available Chronicle points refreshes at the beginning of each session, players are encouraged to spend Chronicle points to influence the story and perform heroic actions. A character cannot have more than 5 Chronicle points at any given time. Since players will be rewarded with additional Chronicle points during play, they should be sure to use the Chronicle points often enough that they can benefit from the bonus points awarded by the GM. Okay. So, and it says in here that the GMs, hey, you did some good role playing. That was pretty spectacular. You're great at the table. Here, have a couple of Chronicle points. So what can you do with them? You can add an auto success to a D20 on a skill check. Spend a Chronicle point off there. You can perform an additional action. In all the games we've covered, additional actions are kind of helpful, right?
They're OP, yeah.
Yeah. Recover from light wound or recovered light wounds.
Here's a flesh wound.
Here you go. Well, on the flip side, the Game Master gets dark symmetry points. Remember, dark symmetry, dark legion, the word dark is always out to get you.
It's bad.
Yeah. We don't like dark. We like light. The GM begins play with a number of tokens in his dark symmetry pool. Dark symmetry pool reflects the growing threat of dark forces at work in the setting. All right. A variety of different game events allow the GM to add more tokens to the Dark Symmetry pool. For example, a powerful artifact, a cursed location, or terrifying enemy may generate Dark Symmetry points. However, the players are the main source of Dark Symmetry, and this is a crux of some problems. The people who play the 2D20 games like to point this out, that this instills fear, unnatural fear into characters. In fact, I bet you Crafty will post, or into players, sorry. Crafty will post something here. If he does, please start, about this. Players are the main source of Dark Symmetry points and may inadvertently or consciously increase the Dark Symmetry pool. Here are just a few examples how players may add Dark Symmetry points. Just so you know, players, you're going to add Dark Symmetry points. Stop being little
babies.
They're babies, and avoiding that. It's going to happen. It is part of the game. It's natural to the game. It's why you have your Chronicle points. It's why you have these different aspects in the game, right? Your momentum. So what can you do with it? You have repercussions. When a character suffers one or more repercussions, we will talk about that when we talk about skills in a future video. One of the possible outcomes is adding 2 points to the Dark Symmetry pool for each repercussion. You just basically gave the Game Master a couple of tokens to mess with you. Right?
Yeah, and you didn't do it on purpose. It was a bad roll, right?
Yep.
It was just a bad roll. It happens.
Improve the odds. A skill test may be too difficult for a player to comfortably generate enough successes. The player can purchase additional D20s to roll during a skill test at the cost of 1 Dark Symmetry point for each D20 the player would like to add. This is what Crafty and a few other, I think Omen Owl may have been, have talked in the past. Like, this is probably the biggest source. Like, I have to succeed at this. You told me this is difficulty 2. I need to have another D20 or 6 in order to do this. I am going to buy 2 D20s and give you, okay.
Dark Symmetry points. Yeah.
Is it 2 each or 1 each? One each.
Additional D20, and you get a Dark Symmetry point.
There you go. So
now this also highlights the importance of momentum and why it's carried forward in a scene, because you can use the momentum someone else has gathered instead of giving the Dark Symmetry, instead of giving the Game Master Dark Symmetry points. You can use someone else's momentum.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, just. Yes, well, when we get to group momentum, when we talk about that in a future video, it'll become a little bit more clear. If I try to explain it now, I probably screw it up. But theoretically, yes. My thing is, I think that's what Chronicle points should be for. I think momentum should be used at that time.
Okay.
It's just,
but it's not how it's written in the book, though.
Right. Yes, to be clear, that's not how it's written in the book. Okay. So sometimes the odds are stacked against the player so heavily that rather than risk a roll and having something catastrophic happen, he may add 1 point to the Dark Symmetry pool and voluntarily choose to fail at the task at hand.
Why?
What's
the benefit?
Because you just failed instead of summoning 18 demons.
Oh, okay. All right.
You only failed instead of breaking the airlock. Wait.
Hang on. What you're saying is that Imperial scientists who touched the obelisk decided, no, I'm not going to voluntarily fail this. I'm going to take my chances. Touched it and catastrophically failed and summoned a giant demon from the heart of Pluto.
Yeah.
Because that Imperial scientist was afraid of giving the Game Master a D20 for some reason, and instead ruined all of humanity.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Now,
there's a lesson for you, players. There's a lesson. Don't be afraid of giving the Game Master a D20 because it might cost the lives of half of humanity.
Maybe if somebody touching that artifact would have said, hey, you know what I think I'll do right here? I think I'll take an automatic failure on my touch.
Yeah.
Maybe there wouldn't be a Dark Legion.
No.
But he didn't do that. He was greedy.
No.
He was selfish.
Or maybe it just would have killed himself.
Yeah.
Not everybody else. Okay. But no.
So what can a Game Master do?
Dirty bread.
Game Master can activate NPC abilities. So one of the key functions of the GM is to manage the various NPCs the players may encounter. Particularly powerful NPCs may require Dark Symmetry points to trigger some of their most powerful, potent abilities. That is true. You can now use the Dark Symmetry points to say, hey, I can use this ability. Which I think is a good mechanic, because the Game Master is spending points. It's like, we play D&D, right? Oh, I've got a breath weapon. Well, how often can you do the breath weapon? Well, it says 3 times per day. So does that mean I can do 3 right now, round, and then I'm done? Or do I have to wait an hour? Whatever. Well, every GM's going to say that differently, right? Here, I've got 3 tokens. I spend a token. I use it. Whenever I choose to spend the next token, I do it again. Oh, you gave me that token back? Thank you. Now I can do it again. So activating NPC abilities is one of the functions. Interrupting PCs. So as long as a player has not already rolled the dice for the skill test, a GM may spend dark symmetry points to introduce a wrinkle or complication. Oh, and I rolled up complications for my characters. The characters may have to contend with before advancing the story. It's like, It's a way to slow the characters down a little bit. Put the complications out there. Also, one of the things to note that players go first in this game. So maybe you don't want the players to go first. Maybe you want to go first. Or it makes more sense to you go first. Well, guess what? If you've got that, there you go. I go first. And the player's like, oh, but we were going to shoot. You were, but now you're not. Now I'm going to get out of the way, or I'm going to shoot, or I'm going to entangle you in my tentacles because I'm from some weird Japanese dimension. Triggering a complication that the GM can use dark symmetry points to bring a dormant issue to the forefront. And most of your characters are going to have traits that you roll up that, the one for when I do the character creation video, he's addicted to something and he has a nemesis. Hooray, your nemesis shows up. What? And he says, not today, Bond. Or you start tweaking. You're under such stress right now, dude. I didn't write down what the addiction was, but I'm jonesing. I need something. All of a sudden, your repercussions are going up, or your skill checks going down. Whatever, difficulty level goes up. So, yeah, confronting character with the object of a phobia or a trait, or otherwise forcing the character to deal with failure or weakness. So, and there's a great example of play here. Look at how many pages it is. It's a lot of pages. And then character life path.